I guess this mission has changed a little.
I'm not that hungry yet.
Between doing the work required to build a desert forest, filming all of the content as I work, and then taking care of myself, my only disappointment is not having free time to relax and explore the Dustups Ranch. Brandon's my full-time ranch hand, and one of the great things about Brandon living out here is that, well, he lives out here. He obviously doesn't work 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. He has free time to spend as he wishes, and Brandon is inclined to roam and explore. Brandon, sometimes I'm a little envious of you. Often, Brandon will spend that free time in Oxford or Cottonwood canyons. And if I had free time, I would also head straight for the canyons. One of my favorite parts about being on the Dustups Ranch is feeling this small. Part of the canyon has 40-foot vertical walls, and it's only about 25 yards across. Every step leaves me feeling awestruck, and it reminds me that I am just a fleck on this magnificent landscape. It doesn't surprise me that because Brandon has spent so much time in Oxford Canyon, he came across a tree that neither of us recognized. Both of us have walked nearly every corner of the ranch, but because neither of us is a plant expert, it takes time for our eyes and our brains to acclimate. There are plants and dirt that we expect to see. Occasionally, our brains short-circuit and observe something new. For those not used to the desert, every plant looks like a cactus. If it has thorns, they call it a cactus. But if they're able to distinguish things a little bit more, they can see an ocotillo, maybe some prickly pears, and creosote bush. As I continue learning, I got further into things, and I can identify catclaw acacia, stinging serpent, Turk's head cactus. There are many more. It took months for my eyes and my brain to say, hey, you've seen that plant a bunch of times. What is that? Today's the first time where Brandon has spent enough time to spot a new tree and say, hey, Sean, you ought to come down here and take a look at this. Brandon and I are driving down to Oxford Canyon, and I spotted this out of the corner of my eye. This is mesquite. It's a very, very sad little mesquite. The only reason this is noteworthy is that this is the closest to my ranch that I've seen mesquite growing. Right now we're around 3,800 feet, and this is the only mesquite that I've seen close to my ranch. This is within half a mile, so when people are asking, why don't I go all in growing mesquite on the ranch? This is the reason, is it just really doesn't like this soil. It's worth trying and putting the seeds in the ground, but I have very low expectations. I get a lot of comments from people on the Facebook group concerned about the condition of the road. And when I mentioned the road, it's really two roads. There's a 35-mile stretch of dirt road maintained by Hudspeth County. I don't control that road. When that road washes out, that's just the way it is. The other road is Oxford Canyon Road, and that is a private road and not accessible to the public. Well, at least not in the legal sense. Oxford Canyon Road is a little bumpy, no doubt, but it's, for the most part, adequate. Here you're looking at one of the two not so adequate spots, but it's only subpar if you're bringing a loaded trailer. We bring water on a trailer up this road through this spot every week. The turn's sharper and steeper than I'd like, but it's not a showstopper. This section and a gravel hill close to my property line are the only spots on this 5-mile stretch that need attention. And with my dozer, the overhaul of the cylinder repacking, which should be done this week, that can finally happen soon, and then I can put the road on pause for a while. One thing I'm noticing is all the scat.
Everything travels down here.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see.
Shelter, and it's clear for walking.
Yeah. All right, so we are here in the canyon. What do you want to show me?
Really just the trees that I thought you'd be interested in maybe putting up on the property since they're growing up here. I used ChatGPT to try and describe it without being a botanist and to come up with the right species, and it was not successful. I could have used iNaturalist or Google Lensed it, but I didn't.
And a lot of those programs are hit or miss, where sometimes one will identify it, but the other won't. Well, if we can't figure it out, YouTube can.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't identify this species because none of the characteristics were matching up 100%. Sam, who watches the channel and is a biologist with Texas Parks and Wildlife, saw the episode, emailed me, and he said, this is probably Foresteria angustifolia, which is not a goji berry. nor is it related to the goji berry. But it's a desert olive, and desert olive is distantly related to the olives that you're thinking about. Not wanting to leave me feeling too disappointed, he did say it's very likely that I have Lycium, the goji berry genus, growing on my ranch. I just need to find it. It's funny because this feels relatively smooth, but then you walk on this gravel in the loose pockets and it just slides away.
I'm going to do more and more barefoot walking in the canyon since it's free of the vegetation. Well, it feels nice.
Oh, hey, sorry, we pause. So this is probably clay.
Okay, yeah, it looks like.
Might be sandstone, it's so hard. Clay is becoming more and more interesting to me because my experience on the terrace is teaching me how important soil amendments are. If there's one thing I could go back and do on the terrace, it would be to go crazy with the soil amendments. So it's these clay seams that I'm after for when I go down to the well, just to try it as a soil amendment. Cool. I can see visible differences in the vegetation on the terrace because I used different amounts of soil amendments on each line. Where I used increasing amounts of soil amendments, the plants are doing better. There's more germinations, they're greener, they're taller. Clay is one of the few soil amendments I can add near living plants without having to turn the soil, so it's still possible for me to improve the terrace and its water retention capabilities without ruining my existing work. Like anyone who needs to mine something, it's better to mine a material as close as possible to where it's needed. I found several exposed clay pockets in the northwest corner of my ranch using the map that 360 drone mapping made for me, and that's amazing because it's on my own land. But I want to teach Brandon to identify the clay pockets so that he can keep an eye out as he roams the ranch looking for what might be even better opportunities. From what I understand, elk looks like it's a egg shaped. It's more of oval shaped.
Not
Yeah, not pucks.
Well,
there's the canyon. This is great for walking and very scary for thinking about what water does down here.
this is where I lost them in when I saw them a little further up. They made their way into this brush pretty quick, and they're tiny.
We need Ace or Bentley out here smelling, just kind of rustling them up because they can fit in some of those brush pockets where we probably don't want to go.
I don't know if you want your little pups tangling with those things. They've got nasty tusks.
Oh, I don't want them tangling. Not at all.
But they might.
Yeah.
Or they might not have a choice.
Brandon's got a really good point. I said that on a whim, and it's a terrible idea. But I've used my dogs for dove hunting, and that actually goes pretty well. They're able to find the birds for me. Many of you mentioned the idea of guard dogs after watching last week's episode. I do think that's a good idea, but not really in the sense of an attack dog. When I bring Ace and Bentley out to the ranch, the best way they help me, even though they're tiny dogs, is their sense of smell and their acute hearing. Good boy, Ace. I'm not necessarily looking for my dog to sink its teeth into approaching wildlife. I just need a dog to bark when there's an intruder or an animal scent so that I can choose how to deal with it. Brandon and I talked through the idea this week, and ultimately the guard dog decision is going to be up to Brandon because he's the one that's going to be responsible for taking care of it. Sierra Blanca has a huge surplus of stray dogs. There are a couple of women in town that run stray rescues, and they are always overloaded. So I have a need. There are extra dogs that need homes. I'm giving it very serious consideration, but I just want to be sure, and I want Brandon to be sure that we are going to take on another responsibility and we can make that work. Right there, right. He's walking across. There's another one. Second one right there. Brandon, that is wild. That is exactly where you said they were.
I guess I'm getting to know them.
Yeah, you are.
Gonna have one dead soon.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't appreciate about hunting is that we're not sport hunting. Like, we're eating our food.
Yeah, but I have been within gun range of javelinas 3 times since I've been here. I haven't gotten a shot off, even though the gun was out. I could have just blasted into the bushes, but I'm not that hungry yet. You know? I can imagine doing it, but
yeah,
that's how you shoot people. Migrants hiding in the bushes. Don't want to do that.
That's happened, man. I remember 2 years ago being out here and the guy popped out of the bushes. Mm-hmm. What was it? 15 feet from us? 10 feet? about scared the pants off me. That javelina hasn't even moved. He's still just chilling in the tree over there.
Trees that I'm interested in.
Oh. Okay, well, let's go look. Let's look and see if we can figure out what kind of tree this is. That is a really interesting fruit.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's cool to look at. The lighter colored ones probably still have seeds in.
Well, let's take some seeds. I guess I'll use my little phone pocket. This kind of.
For the win.
These are not cargo pants, sir. These are tactical pants.
No, they're not.
You weren't able to get an ID on this?
No, but I didn't try very hard. I knew you'd do it.
I guess this mission has changed a little bit. Let's harvest some seeds.
I think the light colored ones are going to be your money makers.
Yeah, it's funny, as if I wasn't growing rattlebush on the terrace, I would be thinking
that this was rattlebush.
Yeah.
If you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, it sounds almost like a musical instrument.
It's a musical instrument if you use it as a musical instrument.
Yeah. If I absolutely had to guess, and I really don't think I'm right, if I had to guess and I had no alternative but to guess, I would guess this is a hackberry.
I can confirm that it is not.
But even this bark is pretty distinct too. It's unusually smooth. The reason I thought a hackberry was the leaves. They have the same angular crescent shape. I've seen them growing wild in the Franklin Mountains, which is very close to me, last year when I went on a hike, but I knew from the bark that it's not hackberry because hackberry has such a distinct and honestly really ugly bark. To me, it looks like if the skin of a witch became bark, it would go on a hackberry tree. I'd like to learn how to use my field guide to identify species instead of relying on my phone, but when I got back to camp where I have cell phone reception and blazing fast Starlink, I was able to identify this species of tree as Texas Buckeye. The Texas Buckeye is a small tree or large shrub native to Texas, and it typically grows 10 or 20 feet tall. It produces clusters of creamy white to pale yellow flowers in the early spring. The tree grows at a moderate rate and is well suited to riparian areas and limestone soils, just like the area where I found it in Oxford Canyon and the limestone soils on my terraces. It's not typically considered a pioneer species, which is the thing I need the most, but it is possible to establish in disturbed areas. Those seeds that we're picking are perfectly safe to handle, but they are toxic if they're ingested. I'm not planning to eat them, but the one thing I learned about this tree is it's often used as an ornamental in landscaping, and that's awesome, because half this project's on video. Having a beautiful tree to show everybody, that definitely fits the mission of building a desert forest. Oh, there's some agarita. I need to remember, I know agarita is medicinal.
You got that all in your washes.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So that tree is interesting. We'll look that up at camp. And it's nice to know it companion plants. We should be paying attention to what's around it because it's next to the agarita and the catclaw. Companion plants are something that I'm trying to be more diligent about learning. And if there's one lesson that's been hammered home to me, it's that plants don't grow in isolation. They do better in communities, and generally speaking, the more individuals you see in a cluster, the healthier all of the plants in the cluster are. I'm pleased to see myself encounter a new plant, not know what it is, but to think, hey, I should pay attention to what is growing around this. We've never seen Texas Buckeye growing anywhere else on Dustups, but because I have paid attention to where American sneezeweed and yucca and all of these plants I'm identifying in the video are growing, I can extrapolate where else on the ranch Texas Buckeye is likely to do well.
And here's an interesting one right here.
Seen before.
That leaves a 3. Like, it looks kind of like poison oak, but it's
No.
pretty certain it's nothing like that.
No.
Here's another one of those trees, and then right next to it, you got, is that yucca?
Yeah, it's a yucca.
Another one of those, whatever that is. Here's some with buds still on and has yellow orbs on it.
Oh, it's American sneezeweed. That grows in the wash, which is a really good sign. In the wash of the area of the terrace where we're working, it's all full of sneezeweed. Like, it's funny because it looks a little green right now, but around October, as the rainy season's done, it's so dark, verdant green. I'm glad you walked up here. I don't think it would have bothered. I'm always more focused on getting work done. It's nice to have the time to explore.
There might have been like a Spanish cannon back here. You never know.
Well, I mean, arrowheads would be...
They'd be long washed away by now, but down here, I bet. But
Yeah. I'm gonna fly the drone up this little slot, and the javelina are still there chilling.
flush them out with the drone if they're not immediately apparent.
They didn't seem too afraid of us, so I'm really...
They were. I mean, they held tight to cover when we passed by, and they didn't make a sound. I told you I smelled them.
The most important step in building is discovering. While I might not have as much free time as I'd like, every step forward is a step closer to realizing my desert forest. There's always something happening out here, and though there are many challenges, whether it's rough roads or the constant learning of desert life, the journey is the destination. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on my latest adventures. Your support for me and my sponsors in particular, it means the world to me, and it's essential for pushing this project forward. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.